Film is an unlucky art form, considering how they are the most expensive out of any to make, and considering how they are mostly judged by the amount of money that they make within the time of their release. They take serious time and determination, but there's nothing you haven't heard before. What might be new to some people is just how filmmakers can play with your subconscious and be able to manipulate you in order to convey different emotional and intellectual ideas. What I plan on showing you are different filmmaking techniques to show how effective they could be once you notice them. The ones I do plan on showing you are ones such as sound, cinematography, blocking, editing, and music. By the way, this is all just kind of for a project for school on making a short documentary on something that you're interested in. But I wouldn't consider this a documentary really, because it's mostly based off of opinion, and I didn't do any research for this video really, so I don't know how it would be considered a documentary. It's more just a film study on different aspects of filmmaking and different examples on how the director can manipulate the audience. But it is what it is. Let's get into it. So what do you think's so important about sound in movies, huh?
Well, you see, in movies, the most important part is the sound in video, right?
Yeah.
So, in sound, you need the most perfect wave and frequencies to convey the theme and tone. You get that? See, in Star Wars, right, with the blaster sound effects, it really conveys.
I know, sound is kind of a sleeper subject when it comes to filmmaking, but it is a criminally underrated aspect of filmmaking. If sound is done poorly, you will notice it, and you will not be able to get immersed into a movie. It will just be so distracting that you will not be able to take the movie seriously if the movie has bad sound design. Like, imagine if the Star Wars movies, like, the sound design was done by this bozer right here. Isn't that Isn't that stupid? That's stupid. That sounds stupid. I would not watch that movie if it sounded like that, and I don't think you would either. Even if it's used in a very minimalist way, like for example Nomadland. That movie is great sound, but it's not like Star Wars techie, in which you have like pew pew and spaceships flying by. It's just simply like the sound of people's cars driving by, conversation in the background. It's very like small scale, but it's still done very well. Other Other examples of how sound can be used can also be to increase the emotion of a certain scene, like this example that me and my friends did, where my friend turns his neck more dramatically because of a rock sound effect atop the top of it. Or a better example could be like how in The Godfather movie, when the train passes by to increase the tension of the scene where Michael kills Sollozzo.
Quando sta meglio. Ricame ti fa un yum e mettiamo tutto a posto. Sti fissaria, si deve finire.
Sound can be best when it goes unnoticed, and sometimes it can be best when it is noticed. The great examples of sound being best when it is noticed is examples like A Quiet Place or A Man Escaped, and how those movies use sound design for suspense in those scenes because each sound matters. Each sound will increase the suspense of that scene. Whether it goes noticed or unnoticed, sound will always have an impact on the film, no matter what. What do you think is important about editing in movies?
What is it I think is important, or why do I think it's important?
Why do you think it's important?
I think it's important because if you don't get the editing portion of the movie right, you get continuity errors.
Good enough. The editor is the second screenwriter of the movie, being tasked with properly structuring and pacing the movie to where it can convey and communicate its themes and ideas. A common misconception of editing is that fast-paced and quick cuts equals editing, but that's not true. You just need to have the right pace and the right cuts for the scene and for that movie in particular. There are great movies that don't have fast-paced editing, movies such as The Godfather, 2001: A Space Odyssey, No Country for Old Men, or Rope. Movies that have great editing, but those movies work because of the way that they're edited, because the editing works for those movies. A great example on small-scale editing being effective can be a video by a guy named Cinema Beyond Entertainment, and how he goes over different editing techniques in a single scene in the movie Whiplash, and how each edit can convey a certain idea with the cuts. 3 examples I will be tackling on how editing can work will be for the structure of a movie, Pulp Fiction, the character internal conflict of the movie, Apocalypse Now, and world building of a movie, City of God. Specifically, the opening of City of God, the opening of Apocalypse Now, and pretty much the entirety of Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction structure and editing helps the movie be told in a far more interesting way, because if the movie was told chronologically, then the movie would have ended with Bruce riding off on his motorcycle, but that would not have been as satisfactory of an ending if that was placed as the last scene of the movie. It makes it far more satisfying that the last scene of the movie was Jules and Vincent in the restaurant. The opening of Apocalypse Now is great by showcasing different images of woods burning in the background, the character, as well as a fan spinning up top to just express the chaos and the madness that this character is feeling at this moment. And the opening of City of God is fantastic because it immediately sucks you into the violence and the energy of the world that the movie is presenting. Similar to sound, no matter what, indisputably, editing will have an impact on the movie. What do you think is important about cinematography and blocking in movies?
Well, cinematography, the importance of cinematography in movies is going to help tell the story visually for an audience, which is very important since this is a visual field. You can use cinematography to communicate a lot of information without using dialogue. It makes it a more emotional experience, makes it a more impactful experience. Now, as far as blocking goes, blocking is the movement within that frame and within the construct of the cinematography. So how people move, how they position, how they are positioned, how those positions change within a scene really dictates and communicates the relationships that people have with each other, have with other characters, have with objects in a scene. So again, it's another way to tell a story in an impactful way without just using dialogue or people just talking to one another.
Thank you. Cinematography and blocking are easily 2 of the most important aspects of any movie. They are purely based on visual storytelling, as Mr. Ingram said, and they can help convey different ideas purely through the visuals themselves. For those of you who don't know, cinematography is the placement of the camera within a scene, and blocking is the placement and movement of characters within that scene. I'm deciding to tackle both of these subjects together because I believe they go hand in hand to create a perfect visual story. An excellent video on how cinematography and blocking can work together can be Cinefix's video on the 1963 movie by Akira Kurosawa, High and Low. They show plenty of perfect examples on how the movement of the characters within a scene can convey different relationships and motivations from those characters. Some examples here that I have to show you are one that I filmed with me and my friends on the difference between shooting something with style and shooting something more blandly. For example, this scene to where I shot this pool game in just a single wide shot.
Alright,
Or another example in which I filmed the same pool scene only with more camera movement and a little more style to make it a little more interesting.
All right, Anthony, your turn.
Some better examples could be famous examples, ones such as the scene in Barry Lyndon to where this group of people and this father are grieving because the father has just recently lost his youngest son. Or another very famous scene can be like this scene in Citizen Kane to where this father and this wife are selling off this child to a wealthier family, but the father is in the background and his feeble attempts to try to get his son back don't pay off at the end as the wife just starts to sell off their son. Another brilliant example is how cinematography and blocking can make uh, an interesting story just a little more powerful. It could be like the entire movie of 12 Angry Men. It's just a movie about 12 people in a single room talking, but yet the movement of the characters and the confined space just makes it a little more intense and gripping than it really has any right to be. That's all I have to say about cinematography and blocking, and I would say, unlike sound and editing, I believe that they could be most powerful when they are noticed by the audience. So, what's so important to you about music and movies, eh?
Yeah. In movies, music is usually used to set the tone. Like if you be using sad music and stuff, it's like, oh, let me play this in the world's smallest violin. Y'all seen that episode of Mr. Krabs? I know y'all seen that.
I've seen that episode.
He's seen that episode. He's seen that episode. Get your ass over here. Get in frame.
Don't. He's not included.
He's not included. Get out.
We'll see him in a minute.
You'll see him in a minute.
You saw that episode?
You saw that episode. So sad music can be used to like make something sadder. Sometimes it's like the entire point of the scene and it makes it sad. But like if it's like fast paced or stuff in like action movies, it can make the scene way more intense.
Music is easily like one of the most important and powerful aspects of filmmaking. There are certain movies out there that might be standing on the shoulders of their soundtrack. Movies that are not bad by any means, such as Rocky, or Chariots of Fire. Movies that are good, but just would not be as popular without the soundtrack to carry them. For example, like a movie that has a great soundtrack that wouldn't be the same without it, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Think about the last scene of that movie and how the music just propels the storytelling even further. Without the music, it would just be 8 minutes of a bunch of cowboys staring at each other menacingly. Three examples that I'm going to be tackling on how music can be effective for a film are going to be how music can convey something about the character, Phantom Thread, how music can help with world building, Blade Runner, and how music can just speak to the whole film in its entirety, Howl's Moving Castle. Let's start with Phantom Thread. Phantom Thread, the movie, starts off very pleasant, very comforting. The House of Woodcock is an incredibly comforting score about this man who sticks with his daily routine and is happy with it. But then, as the movie carries on and this man starts to fall for a woman by the name of Alma, his routine starts to become disrupted and he starts to become a little more challenged by this woman, and the score kind of conveys that by creating a more eerie tone, as in the score Alma. Blade Runner just speaks perfectly for the world of that film. It's kind of like a techno jazz kind of score. It really puts you into the world of this gritty dystopian future setting that we almost feel like we're a part of because of it. Specifically, my favorite is Blade Runner Blues, which is just so, it's just so tone heavy for the film, and it just works so perfectly. Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle is just my favorite score right now. the music conveys an entire experience as a whole. Like, I can't explain it specifically, but the music is just so phenomenal in terms of world building, characters. It's, like Merry Go Round is an excellent piece of music. It's like a little leitmotif for the film, but it's perfect. It doesn't need to be changed. It's like Up. It's just kind of the same score, only just slightly different each time. I can't really describe how it makes me feel, but it's just like, it almost makes me jealous, and it makes me almost want to take up composing myself. And all of these scores have something important to say about their respective film, but in their own different way. And it's just very beautiful.
Nerd.
I feel like I'm part of a dance group.
Yeah, nerd. Yes, I am a nerd. Bookworm, I'm studious. From my cerebral cortex to my gluteus. Back in kindergarten, I aced my college entrance exam. Now I'm no rocket scientist, but wait.
I am!
Get back in. Get back in.
Get back there! Vincent, I'm just gonna fucking take me to back into it. Are you guys at the end?
Yeah, sure.
Alright. Get a personality.